Lesson 15. Managing money and financial responsibility. After a psychotic episode, many people discover that their relationship with money has changed. During the illness, impulse control becomes weakened and the ability to foresee consequences becomes distorted. In this state, it is easy to spend your savings, buy unnecessary things, make risky financial decisions, or simply lose track of basic bills and obligations. When the symptoms subside, this can trigger shame or guilt, but it is important to remember that such behaviors did not come from your personality, they were a result of the illness. In this lesson, you will learn to look at finances in a new, calmer way that will restore your sense of control and safety. 1. Managing a budget. Managing money after an episode is like rebuilding a house after a storm. First, you need to check what has been damaged, and then calmly, step by step, create a new plan. For many people, the most helpful tool is a simple ritual. Once a day, sit down for a few minutes and check which payments need to be made, which have already been done, and what expenses are coming up in the next few days. You do not have to be perfect. The most important thing is that you return to the habit of making conscious decisions instead of reacting on impulse. A short daily moment of mindful attention to your budget works much like meditation. It stabilizes, organizes, and calms. Many people have difficulty assessing the value of money during remission. Some become excessively frugal, others are afraid to spend anything, treating finances as a potential source of danger. This is also part of the recovery process. As the brain returns to balance, all functions, including those related to planning and risk assessment, need time to start working properly again. It is worth starting with very simple rules. First, pay for what is necessary, and only then for what is pleasant. If you do this consistently for several weeks, you will notice that the anxiety decreases and your trust in your own decisions slowly begins to return. For some people, using an envelope budget is helpful, not necessarily physical envelopes, sometimes just mental ones. The idea is that you know what part of your money is allocated to food, what part to transport, what part to bills, and what part to small pleasures. Dividing your funds into categories helps avoid chaos and reduces the risk of acting on impulse. In this way, you build a structure that is just as much a part of therapy as medication or psychological support. It is also helpful to have one trusted person with whom you can consult larger financial decisions. This does not mean giving up control or treating you like a child. It is a form of protection, just as you use belaying when climbing. During recovery, you need a partner who helps you keep your balance. People after an episode often feel pressure to prove that they can cope on their own, but this is not necessary. Emotionally healthy people also ask loved ones for advice when they have to make important decisions. In your case, it is an additional guarantee of safety and peace. You can support your recovery by introducing small but very effective financial mindfulness techniques. One of them is the 24-hour rule. If you feel the urge to buy something non-essential, postpone the decision for one day. This simple step gives your brain time to distinguish impulse from need. Another technique, known in cognitive therapy, involves asking yourself, how will I feel in a week if I buy this? And how will I feel if I don't? Such tiny interventions effectively reduce the risk of actions that could disrupt your return to stability. Sometimes finances after an episode are in a difficult state. If that is the case, it does not mean that you have lost control of your life. Many people, once their mental state has stabilized, gradually rebuild their funds, pay off debts and learn new, healthier habits. It is a process, not a race. The most important thing is not to be ashamed to ask for help. A psychologist, social worker, or even a financial advisor can help you sort out the situation without judging you or triggering guilt. Finances are part of your life, but they are not its center. They do not define your worth, your future, or your identity. They are a tool, nothing more. And any tool can be learned anew, especially when the mind is regaining stability. Over time you will notice that the decisions which now seem difficult will become natural. Your sense of responsibility will return, and with it your peace of mind. The ability to manage money is one of the markers of recovery, and you are capable of regaining it. 2. How to recognize financial manipulation and exploitation. In the recovery period after a psychotic episode, a person becomes more vulnerable to financial manipulation, even if previously they handled other people's intentions perfectly well. This is not due to naivety, but to a temporary psychological sensitivity. The mind is tired, emotions are deeper, and the need for closeness and support is stronger than ever. Unfortunately, some people take advantage of this state. They do it subtly. First they show concern, then they ask for a favor, and eventually they begin to expect money, gifts, loans, or costly commitments. From a therapeutic perspective, this is a form of abuse that can seriously disrupt your recovery. Financial manipulation rarely begins in an obvious way. Most often it takes the form of small suggestions that gradually shift your boundaries. Someone asks for a small amount of money, explaining that they will pay it back tomorrow, just this once, or that they are in a difficult situation. Later, there is an expectation that you will keep helping. People who manipulate take advantage of the fact that analyzing complex financial situations may be harder for you than usual, that you do not want to let others down, that you fear conflict, that you naturally want to maintain a relationship that seems to offer support. Each of these human vulnerabilities is only intensified by the illness, and this is exactly what people with unhealthy intentions feed on. The key warning sign is how you feel after the conversation. If you feel pressure, anxiety, shame, forced gratitude, guilt, or a sense that you have been pulled into something, this is not a healthy relationship. Under normal circumstances, financial help is a free choice, not an obligation. If someone suggests that you have a moral duty to help them, that supporting them proves your character, or that refusing would be selfish, you are facing manipulation. A healthy person respects your resources and does not expect money in exchange for attention, care, or friendship. Notice also that people who exploit others often appear when you are at your weakest. They recognize your changes in behavior, your sensitivity, and your fear of loneliness. They may pretend friendship or affection in order to gain material benefits. In romantic relationships, this can be particularly dangerous. Someone may pretend to be in love just so that you support them, buy them gifts, or fund their desires. That is why specialists recommend not making major financial decisions or investments at the start of a new relationship, especially if it appeared during or just after an episode. The best protection is to consult a trusted person. This may be a therapist, family member, friend, or even your psychiatrist. Emotionally healthy people see the situation from the outside and can assess whether the other person's behavior is healthy or shows signs of abuse. Asking for an opinion is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of prudence and self-care. No one should blame you for wanting to make sure your decisions are safe. If you notice that someone is pushing, pressuring, asking about your savings, encouraging you to risky actions, or claiming that they will help you make money, this is a reason to distance yourself immediately. In line with therapeutic practice, the best response is a simple statement: I don't feel comfortable with this, I prefer not to make financial decisions. To protect yourself, you have every right to limit contact, and in extreme cases to end it completely. Your money is part of your safety, and your vulnerability makes you more exposed to abuse. Surround yourself with people who support you, not those who expect benefits. Limit trust in people who appeared suddenly and very quickly want to become part of your life. You are not obliged to help everyone. Your first duty is to protect your own stability. 3. Loans, borrowing, and risky investments. One of the most dangerous aspects of schizophrenia, and at the same time one of the least discussed, is the tendency to make risky financial decisions. During the illness, especially in phases of heightened arousal, economic judgment becomes distorted. This is not ordinary carelessness or lack of responsibility. It is a real symptom, a combination of impulse control problems, weakened ability to foresee consequences, and a temporary belief that decisions made here and now will only have positive outcomes. In practice, this looks very different from person to person. Some take out loans they will never be able to repay, believing that it will work out somehow or that they are about to receive a large amount of money. Others invest their savings in speculative financial instruments, cryptocurrencies, dubious investment platforms, or schemes promising quick profit. Sometimes a person starts giving away money to charities, acquaintances, or random people in the belief that they're doing good or fulfilling some spiritual mission. Unfortunately, all these behaviors can leave serious consequences: debts, loss of savings, family conflicts, and legal problems. It is worth understanding where this comes from. During an episode or shortly afterwards, dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for reward and motivation, works differently than usual. A person may feel excited, confident, or as if the world is wide open to them. This illusion of power, very characteristic of the illness phase, weakens natural caution. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logical thinking, planning, and risk prediction, is slowed down. Dopamine says, "Do it now." And the healthy part of the brain, the part that normally inhibits impulses, is unable to respond. To protect yourself, you need strategies that will act like a seat belt. The most important of these is to refrain from any major financial decisions until your condition is fully stable. This means that during remission it is worth introducing a rule that no loan, borrowing, investment, or signing of a contract can happen without consulting someone you trust. You do not have to give up control. It is enough to introduce a simple safety procedure: before I make a big decision, I have to talk about it. This habit works like an anchor that stops you from acting on impulse. A second strategy is to limit access to financial tools that can be dangerous. For some people, it helps to agree with a trusted person that larger sums will be held jointly or that they will require 2 signatures. Others decide to get rid of credit cards and keep only a debit card. Such solutions are widely used in therapy for people with impulse control disorders, and in schizophrenia they are just as effective. This is not taking away your freedom, but taking care of your future. A third method is consciously slowing down decisions. If a thought appears, maybe I'll invest, maybe I'll take a loan, maybe I'll buy something big, the most important thing is not to act immediately. Postpone the decision for 24 or 48 hours. That is not much, but in most cases the impulse will have passed by then and you will see the matter in a different light. When the emotions subside, the mind can think rationally again. This technique protects you from most unnecessary expenses. Do not forget that finances are part of your therapy. Your economic safety is one of the pillars of psychological stability. It is not about becoming an ascetic, but about making decisions that are in line with your long-term health. If you feel that you cannot cope with financial impulses or that temptations are appearing which are hard to stop, talk to a psychologist. Therapists often help create a financial safety plan, a simple list of steps you take when an impulse towards unhealthy action appears. Most importantly, remember, your worth does not depend on money, debts, or past mistakes. Everything can be rebuilt, or you can legally declare bankruptcy. Financial wounds heal slowly, but they always heal. What matters is that you do not leave yourself alone at times when your mind is trying to persuade you into risky decisions. The impulse will pass. You will remain. And it is worth making sure that you remain in a stable place that supports your recovery. When finances slip out of control. Financial problems are one of the most painful consequences of schizophrenia and, at the same time, one of the least willingly disclosed. Many people are ashamed to admit that they have lost money, taken out loans, or fallen into debt. This shame works like a cage. It makes a person close up, isolate, and try to get out of a situation alone, which is not the result of a bad character, but a real consequence of the illness. Yet the worst decision you can make is to hide such problems. Silence does not protect, silence deepens them. That is why, in a moment of crisis, it is so important to do something that is often the hardest for people with this illness: ask for help. You are a person who has gone through enormous mental effort. Your brain has fought for survival, and some of the decisions you made were taken at a time when logical thinking and risk assessment were impaired. In such a state, even the most rational people can fail, which means that debts, ill-considered investments, or loans taken out during that time do not say anything about you as a person. They are not proof of weakness, but a trace of the illness. And just as with any other symptom, the answer is not punishment, but support. The first and most important step is to talk to someone you trust. This could be a carer, partner, friend, therapist, or family member. Contrary to what anxiety suggests, such a conversation does not lead to judgment or condemnation, quite the opposite. Once you speak your worries out loud, the situation immediately becomes more real and therefore more manageable. Trusted people can help you assess what is urgent, what can be postponed, and what steps to take first. It is their outside perspective that brings clarity, which is hard to find when you are under stress. The second important step is to use professional forms of support that exist precisely to protect people in crisis. A social worker can help you create a repayment plan and obtain information about local benefits, hardship funds, or support programs. Non-governmental organizations often offer free legal and financial advice, as well as support groups for people with mental health problems, where you can talk to others who have gone through similar situations. Simply knowing that you are not the only person struggling with debt after a psychotic episode can bring relief. A third form of support are groups run by hospitals, mental health centers, or charities specializing in schizophrenia. Meetings are held in an atmosphere of acceptance and understanding, and participants share practical ways of coping with financial chaos. It is often there that the best tips are given: how to negotiate with the bank, how to talk about deferment of payments, how to deal with guilt, and how to rebuild balance step by step. It is important for you to know that the world does not see you through the lens of your debts. You are not alone, and you do not have to deal with this on your own. Your financial situation, although difficult, is something that can be repaired slowly, in stages, together with people who want to help you. The only situation that is truly dangerous is isolation. As long as you speak about it, the problem has a solution. As long as you ask for support, you are moving towards safety. The greatest courage you can show in this situation is not in keeping silent or battling the bills alone. The greatest courage is honesty. And honesty, especially about money, is one of the most reliable steps towards a stable life and recovery. The rights of a person with schizophrenia when they lose the ability to manage their finances. During periods of exacerbation of schizophrenia, many people lose the ability to manage money safely. This is not a sign of irresponsibility or lack of intelligence. It is a natural consequence of the disturbances in thinking, perception, and risk assessment that appear in the illness. In such moments, it is most important to remember that the legal system in most countries has been created to protect people in crisis, not to punish them. You have the right to protection, support, and safeguards around your finances so that a mental health crisis does not lead to irreversible harm. First of all, it is worth knowing that no one can take away your money, your bank account, or access to your own funds without a clear legal basis. This means that your rights are protected even if you have made financial mistakes during an episode. At the same time, the law provides tools that can protect you if you yourself see that your finances are slipping out of control. One such tool is appointing a financial attorney or proxy. This can be someone you trust, a carer, partner, parent, or friend, to whom you grant limited authority to carry out certain transactions on your behalf. You do not lose control of your life in this way. On the contrary, you consciously create a protective umbrella that only opens when it is needed. When crises are more severe or recurrent, legislation in many countries allows for the appointment of a financial guardian or legal representative solely for property matters. This person does not manage your private life and does not decide on your treatment. Their only task is to ensure that your funds are safe and that your basic obligations are paid. This solution is sometimes used in cases of chronic debt, risky decisions, using loan sharks, or repeated involvement in financial manipulation. A guardian is not a jailer, but a protective mechanism designed to prevent dramatic consequences of illness-driven impulses. You also have the right to refuse to make financial decisions if you feel your mental state does not allow it. Banks, institutions, and public offices are obliged to take your limitations into account if you inform them about your illness and ask for additional time, support, or the presence of a support person. In many countries, there are regulations that protect people with mental illness from signing contracts when they lack capacity. Such contracts can be annulled or renegotiated if it can be shown that they were concluded during a period of psychosis, mania, or seriously impaired reality testing. It is also very important that you have every right to protect yourself from fraud, abuse, and aggressive business practices. If someone has taken advantage of your mental state, persuaded you into a purchase that was harmful to you, or slipped you a contract to sign that you did not understand, you are not the one at fault. In such cases, you can report the matter to a consumer ombudsman, support organizations, or even law enforcement authorities. The law stands on the side of the weaker party, and mental illness is clearly one of the factors that are protected. Finally, it is worth emphasizing that using legal protection is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of wisdom and maturity. Just as a person with an injury uses a walking stick so as not to fall, a person in a mental health crisis has every right to use tools that safeguard their resources and future. Your money is part of your safety, and the law was created to protect that safety, not to limit your freedom. You decide which mechanisms you will use, and you have every right to choose those solutions that will best support your recovery. Summary: managing money in schizophrenia is not only a matter of economics, it is also a matter of safety, stability, and peace of mind. During the illness, the mind works differently, and its natural risk assessment mechanisms can be disturbed. That is why, after an episode, many people find that they have lost control over their spending or that their decisions were impulsive. This is not a reason for shame, it is a symptom of the illness, just as real as hallucinations or anxiety. The most important step in recovery is to regain a sense of agency by building simple, everyday habits, brief budget check-ins, planning expenses, postponing decisions by 24 hours, and involving a trusted person when making major financial choices. Such small rituals bring surprisingly great relief. They restore order where there used to be chaos and provide a foundation for further recovery. At the same time, this lesson is about protection, both from your own impulses and from other people's abuse. People in recovery are more vulnerable to manipulation and more often become targets for scams, predatory loans, or miracle investments. Understanding how manipulation works, recognizing warning signs, and knowing how to ask for support are crucial in order not to become a victim of other people's intentions. If finances slip out of control, you do not have to keep silent or hide the problem. That is what carers, trusted people, social workers, and support organizations are there for. There are also legal tools that protect a person with mental illness during periods of reduced financial capacity, powers of attorney, financial guardianship, and the possibility of annulling contracts signed in a state of psychosis. None of this limits your freedom. On the contrary, it gives you the safety without which it is hard to regain balance.